Hello everyone, I'm just going to document on video my first attempt ever at re-veneering a piece of audio gear. So what I have here is an old vintage Pioneer PL510 turntable. It's a direct drive, fully manual turntable. The mechanically it's in excellent shape. The dust cover needs a little bit of polishing, but other than that, there's no major scars or anything like that. The only thing I was a little bit dissatisfied with when I purchased it a short while ago was the fact that the sides of the, and I don't know if the lighting is quite right here, but you can see at the very bottom of the sides, the veneer is starting to peel ever so slightly. It's not as pronounced on this side as it is on the other side. The front is actually just fine. And on the left-hand side, you can actually see it's a little more pronounced where the veneer is peeling back. So one of the things I dislike about it is the fact that they use the cheap vinyl veneer. So it's a simulated wood veneer, obviously, and I would much prefer it to be a much nicer real wood type of veneer. So what I did was I went to one of our local establishments here, a place called Windsor Plywood, and you can see that I've got one of the first tools of the trade, and that's a little bit of liquid courage so that I can tackle this job. But what I did was I bought a long strip of this cherry veneer. And the nice thing about this is it's got the iron on. I know a lot of people prefer to just go with the regular veneer and glue it on themselves, but I saw an online demonstration or a little sort of how to do it with this exact same turntable, except it was the A version, showing that they used an iron-on glue type veneer, and it turned out very well. So I'm going to try and mimic that attempt and hopefully film it. So this is the how it looks at the outset. What I'm going to do, obviously, is I'm going to take the head shell off and everything, and take the platter before I start inverting it and everything. But what I want to do is peel back all of the veneer, and you can actually see the labeling on the back. So I want to try to save that and put it back on with the wood veneer, just to give it a flavor of originality. So we'll make that attempt and document it by video as I go along. So here we are at the start with the veneer. What I intend on doing is I want to do the sides first, because naturally there's a bit of thickness to the material. So what I want to do is put the sides on first, so that when I put the front and the back on, it actually overlaps, so you won't get that small little seam at the corner. And then of course we'll have to sand it down a bit. So what I'm going to do is peel it back like I saw in the video, and I'll put the link in the YouTube here on the description. I think it was on Audio Karma that shows how to do this. So once I get it all prepped, I will I'll start taking some more videos and just do incremental steps as I go along. So thank you for watching. Alright, so the first thing I've done as a matter of prep is I've taken the head shell, counterweight off. I've made sure it's strapped down sturdy, the arm, so it's there's no play and it's not going to wreck the bearings or anything. Then I also masking tape down the dust cover so that it doesn't flop open. I've zip strapped the wires so they don't flop around and get snagged on anything. And I've tucked all of the components that I'm not using away. And then of course with the head shell, I just made sure that I put on the stylus protector so I don't damage that. And we'll just set these aside out of the way so I can carry on with the work. And then the next step is I'm going to open it up from the underside. So I'm going to flip it up on its side. I'm going to put some towels down so I don't scratch or damage the turntable. The veneer will come later, so I'll put it over there. And then we'll start peeling back the veneer layer using a small razor blade or something to that effect. So I've got a bunch of razor blades here that I can use, and hopefully we can peel it back without any damage. And then what I'll do is I'll finally sand it down with a really fine grit. I have to take this Pioneer nameplate off here. I understand it's just 2 pins that go through, so we'll open up the bottom basically and pop that out and set it aside over here once I get the bottom off. And then while I've got it opened up, what I'll do is I'll make sure everything's clean inside. Any lubricating points, I'll make sure they're well oiled up, and spots that are supposed to be dry we'll leave dry. And for that you should pull out the technical manual, which is available online. So there you have it. So there you have it on the underside. So what we'll do is we'll just take out all the screws, have a look on the inside, make sure everything's tickety-boo. I don't expect to have any problems because it still functions perfectly. And then from there you can see a little bit of a ding in the corner here, so that's another good reason to re-veneer this. And you can see where it's peeling back a bit, and we'll start the process of peeling. Right, so I've unscrewed the back, and then I've kept the order of the screws. You don't really have to because they're all the same, but I'm just a little bit anal that way. So now we pulled it off, and then I noticed that this wire right here, which I believe is the grounding wire, there's a nice metal sort of it's almost like a paint that lines the inside. A lot of dust, so we'll clean that out. And it was actually, this little connector right here was actually pinned to that, and I believe that's your grounding point to the bottom. And you can see the inside is actually very clean, despite the fact it's open vents and everything. I expected a lot more dust, but it actually is quite clean inside. So without that being said, we can actually see where the in the bottom corner here where the poles or the pins for the front name tag are. So what we'll do is we'll clean all of that out, any kind of dust that's in there. Give it a nice little clean, and then start pulling back the veneer. A little poker tool, and what I'll do is I'll use it to pop out the nameplate from the back side without damaging it, hopefully. You can see I've popped it out, and we'll just pull that off and then carry on with peeling the vinyl veneer. We have the nameplate and the 2 holes that were bored in, and it was not glued, it was just actually pressure seated, so the holes were slightly less diameter, and it was nice and snug in there. So I actually had to very lightly, not hard, just tap on the back side just to get enough torque to get it unseated from the hole. Alright, we've got some of it peeled back here. Just wanted to give you a feel for how simple this is to get in behind, and you can actually see how easy it is to get the razor blade in there, and how poorly it, or I guess how dried out the glue that the backing and that's holding it on has become over the years. So you can see it's very easy to trim it back and peel it off. In fact, most of this comes off as one big hunk. There we go. As you can see, very, very, very easily pulls off. There you go. Same with the back. We'll just carry on all the way down the back, and that's where we're coming to the label portion. You can see the labels are coming off with it. So we'll just trim those down and save the labels so that we can reapply them once we got the wood veneer on. So coming off real slick. The labels nice and intact, and of course we've taken some imagery at the beginning just to make sure that we put them back in the correct place. Alright, what I did was I taped down the upper part of the plinth here because we don't want to scratch it, and just to make it a little bit of a barrier, I'm using 220 grit sandpaper here, just to rough up the surface a little bit, because it was like super smooth, the background to the veneer. So you want to make it roughened up a little bit so that the glue adheres to it, so it doesn't just end up peeling back off. So you want to make sure that the glue on the back of the veneer bonds quite well to this material. So we'll carry on all the way around, as you can see, and get it all nice and sanded and roughed up a little bit, and then we'll proceed with the veneering using an iron, just some cloth over top the veneer with a dry iron. So you got to make sure that there's no steam because it can actually damage the veneer, and we'll apply the veneer. Alright, the last tip that I got from a friend at work who's actually a woodworker was to start on the side, the unseen side first. So when I do the veneer application, well, in this case I'm going to have to do the sides, which are less visible in the front. So I'm going to do the sides, the back, and then get those seams just right and figure that out, and then worry about the front part, which is the most visible part of the piece. So that's the process that I'm going to use. So I'll do left side, right side, and then the back, which will overlap slightly the thickness of the left side, and then have that matched up, and then I can sand the joints together and make sure that they're nice and tight. So there you have it. Okay, I've got the first piece of cherry veneer all taped down on the bottom, and it just so happened that this veneer is the exact same width of the front panels and the side panels. So it's dead easy because you can just line it up, and making sure that the top edge is perfectly flush. And what I've got is the iron is heating up right now. I'm just going to heat it up. It's on steam, but as soon as I poured it out, but I'm just going to make sure all the residual water's out of it. So I'm going to put it on steam so it burns out the rest of the water, and then I'll switch it to non-steam and then let it stay heated for a while. And then what I'll do is I'm going to trim down this old ratty t-shirt I got into a small panel, and then I will be ironing over top of that so I don't damage the veneer itself. So I'm just applying heat, which will cause the glue in the back to turn to liquefy and adheres to the plinth base. And we'll see how that turns out. And then the other tool, of course, you need. So what I've made sure is that I've got a bit of an overlap on each end. So once I've got that firmly glued down, then what I'll do is I'll use the straight edge of the plinth itself to cut the outside edge, or the extra piece off in a straight line, and then I can carry on around the rest of the plinth that way. So this is the first piece. We'll see how it goes. Here we have the first piece applied, and it looks like it's sticking really good. So the place that I bought the veneer from, they recommended that I used it at half heat, and I found that it wasn't enough. So I just cranked it up, put on the shirt on the top so it wouldn't burn the front face, and I gave it a good dose of heat, and now it looks like it's sticking very well. So we're going to let that cool, and then we'll trim it down, and then we'll do the other side, and then attempt the back, and then attempt the front and see how it looks. But I'm really happy with it's lined up really well, and the veneer looks like it's good, and we'll give it a good stain once we've got it all done, and see how it looks. I'm quite pleased with it. Success! There's the first strip of cherry veneer, and I used a Dremel tool to cut the edges. I used really fine grit. Let's get focus on there. There we go. So I used this 320 grit just to smooth out the edges so that it would line up good. and we're going to proceed around the bases here. Right, here's side 2 complete, and now I'm ready to proceed next on to the back. We'll see how the corners fit, and then once I get that down pat, then hopefully we can get a good line on the front panel, which is of course the most visible panel. So I'm really satisfied the way it came out, and yeah, it's easy to work with. Side's done, and I've sanded it progressively down to starting at 220 grit down to 320, or up to 320, and then 600 for a little bit of polishing. Could probably go up even higher than that, but I don't know, I think it looks good the way it is. So we will try it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer of, it's called Minwax. It's pre-stain. So what this is designed to do, my understanding is, it prevents blotching. So what you do is you put that on, it absorbs into the wood, and then when you put your stain, which I've got this really nice stuff, it's called red chestnut, and I've done a test pattern with a couple of finishes that I've had, and the one on the right is the one that I like the best, and that's the red chestnut. So I did a little test stain on a spare chunk of the cherry wood, and that's what we're going to run with. So we'll do the pre-stain and get that all dried up, and then we'll put the red chestnut on. And I've pre-drilled the holes. I actually used a little finishing nail to poke holes in the back, and then I used my drill bit sizer to, because one of the posts is a different size on the Pioneer. Of course, I cut myself too. So there's the Pioneer label. That's not blood, that's just stain and stuff. And so we've got a wide post and a skinny post. So I've drilled the holes accordingly, and it fits good. So what we'll do is we'll put the pre-stain on and go with the stain, and then button her all up together and see what she looks like. So there we've got it. I used the pre-treatment, the pre-stain wood conditioner, Minwax, and applied that, and then waited the 15 minutes, wiped it down of excess pre-stain treatment, and then within the prescribed time I applied the next coat of stain, which is what I discussed earlier and I chose, which is the red chestnut, and it just pops. So this is the first coat that you see. That's the front. Holes pre-drilled for the Pioneer label, and I gotta say this thing looks way better than the fake veneer that was on before. So I would not have any troubles doing this again. This is dead easy. Corners came out just perfect, and you hardly see a seam between the corners. And I've done the back as well, and as you can see, it came out very nice. So we'll finish off the stain, button the bottom back on, and clean her up, and put her proudly into my stereo system again. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Alright folks, epilogue. I've completed my little veneering project, and as you can see, it just pops. So I'm really gobsmacked that my first attempt at ever veneering something was a great success. So there you have it. I've put the Pioneer logo back on, and I gotta say the color that I chose, it just sticks out. Really looks nice. The only thing, I'm just letting the stain dry. I'll do that overnight. And the only thing I have yet to apply are these, and all I'll do is just trim them out, and I will stick them back on. And of course you've got the serial number. It's actually upside down. So I'll just trim those around and put them back into the location where were. So you've got the serial number there, you know, the past and all that stuff. And the only difference is, instead of having the cheap vinyl veneer, which was peeling, I now have wood stained cherry veneer, which really makes this turntable something you'd want to show off in your sound system. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please note them below or contact me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.